Fextralife getting banned on YouTube and Twitch and so on. I generally think it is likely. So what happened here is that Fextralife has been blacklisted now by several different Reddit forums, especially of course Baldur's Gate 3, where this kind of started last week. I personally just saw this thing last night before I went to work. Then I went to work and I work 8 hours with AI stuff. So why not spend another half hour, guys, to explain to you how botting works, right? So this video here, guys, first I'm gonna break down the controversy, right, with Fextralife, or allegedly controversial, of course, but very likely true. And then I'm gonna explain to you a little bit how basic AI works, I guess, like level 1 AI. I call this botting kind of the basic level of an AI intelligence. It is kind of the same level as writing like a chess AI. I'll explain that later, guys. Hope you guys like that. Subscribe, press the like button. But let's go into the first the context. So I think this is the post by Unlimited. They kind of started the ball rolling, right? Where Unlimited then claims that Fextralife, again allegedly, is using bots, right, to manipulate Reddit and other engines as well, or sorry, SOE ratings, right? I want to say here immediately that I think this sounds very possible. So I didn't know about this, right, until yesterday, but I spent last evening and this morning looking at it, and it seems very, very likely, and I'll explain why later. But I thought I point something out. When I started reading this stuff, I saw that people have been saying this for a while, actually. So it's interesting that, you know, it's interesting that one person's like, wait, look at this thing, they're clearly cheating here, right? And then it's like, oh, actually, other people have said this for years. So sprEEEzy actually said this for almost 2 years ago. I think interesting how immediately we're like, well, yeah, this seems quite likely. And then it's like, wait a minute, it's like more people have said this for a while now. And also for that matter, you saw that like moistctical, Asmongold, like other people coming out, you know, complaining about this as well, right? Like the last day or two now. So I really feel the ball is rolling here, right? First, I want to say I think this is very likely true, because when I started reaching this matter, right, I saw how they are clearly abusing YouTube and Twitch system to get like artificial views, I guess, right? Which is clearly like a no-no. So that's why I actually think they are gonna get banned on YouTube. So I'll come later more in details. But I really think so. And for me, it's always this thing, right, where I see someone doing one thing that is, you know, illegal, or at least, how I say it, unethical, at least, right there. Like if someone is doing something extremely unethical in one thing, then I'm very likely to believe that they're also being unethical in something else. So I think it's very, very likely true, because, you know, again, if they're doing bad stuff over here, they're also probably doing bad stuff over here as well, like, you know, A and B. And also, yeah, speaking here, like view counting, view botting, so on, right, for YouTube. And then also, like, you know, bot farming or bot ranking or whatever for Reddit. Those things are very, very close together. So it isn't even like A and B. It's more like A1 and A2, right? So I think this is very likely true. You know, again, it's like fool me once. You know, yeah, I think it's very true. But anyway, let's go into the meat of the story. The first thing to the ball rolling this time is that they are using, what seems to be clearly using bots to up, down, and up what they call their own stuff, right? So basically what they're doing is what I call a level 1 AI, is that every time someone on Reddit, Baldur's Gate 3 then, are posting like, oh, look at my video, right, look at my build or whatever, look at my, you know, here's my stats or whatever, right? I personally have posted a few videos, right, on this Reddit, of course, because, you know, my tier list or whatever, here's my opinion about, I don't know, the companion AI or whatever, right? So I post it sometimes, right? And what happens then is that someone, allegedly is Fextralife, right? But someone is then bot voting you down, right? To of course give you less views, which of course will attract you less people, and then you get, you know, both less views on Reddit and whatever, right? And also less views on YouTube and so on, right? Because it's like, you know, the less people see you here, the people see you there, right? And honestly, they probably likely do this thing for YouTube as well. I mean, yeah, like why wouldn't they, right? For example, when I personally, not as a personal thing, I'm not saying that they're doing this thing, right? When I upload videos, right? When I throw up my videos, guys, on this channel or about the channels, very often do I get like, you know, 10 Insta dislikes, like, you know. Maybe someone just hates me, but honestly, right, it's very, very common, and I can see a very clear pattern. It might be certain like manga or anime reviews, right, or some games. And so, for example, when I do a specific, I won't say which one then, but a specific manga, if I review that one, I always get like, you know, yeah, instead like 10, 20 dislikes, right? And then usually what happens in the YouTube system is they go away. So first I have like 30 dislikes, and then the next day I got like 1 dislike, right? Because YouTube actually, of course, sees that's botting. And it's also very clear because, well, usually you get them instantaneously, like that. You know, you get like 30 dislikes immediately, the first second, right? Clearly botting, right? Rather than someone disliking me, it's probably someone doing a similar content, right? You know, like if I do an anime review on One Piece, right? It's like another One Piece reviewer that is botting me to get me less views, right? That is just a no-brainer. It's Occam's razor, right? Fextralife is doing allegedly then the same thing, right? For everyone in Baldur's Gate 3, right? You know, Baldur's Gate 3, of course, is a huge thing now. I personally get a lot of views for it. Honestly, I admit, of course, one reason I'm talking about it because I get a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 views, and obviously, if they are botting to this, discredit, so to speak, discredit all my videos, I get less views, right? And honestly, I'm not gonna sit there and say that I know for certain that Fextralife has spotted my videos, but yeah, when I upload Baldur's Gate 3 videos, I see the same pattern that I used to see with some of my manga and anime content, where they immediately might get a lot of dislikes. Like, you have like 10 views and like 10 dislikes, which of course doesn't make any sense, right? That being said, just like with manga and so on, YouTube usually actually kind of removes the dislikes because, again, it's very easy for anyone with basic, like coding AI skills to figure out that's probably fake, right? But still, not always, and some of them might remain, but also when you upload a video to YouTube, the first hours or whatever, right? The first day especially, but especially the first hours, usually tracks you the most, right? So by botting someone's channel, you can absolutely, ruin some of their percentage growth, right? Because the SOE is worse in the beginning, right? So, and also same thing with uploading on Reddit or whatever, right? So it's very clear why you want to do this stuff, right? It's very clear why you want to do it. Of course, I will link below in the description for this stuff, right? But it's a lot of posts on Reddit now. So they've been, like I said, they're blacklisted now on Reddit by most people. Like they've been blacklisted now by Baldur's Gate 3 guys, right? But also Armored Core, so you can follow it down here, yeah. So they're getting, people are really getting at them. Obviously, it's also turned into a counter topic, I guess, where people are defending them and so on. And I'll just address it for a second here as a side note. I think that's interesting that a lot of people are defending them, and that is probably, I would guess, and I genuinely think, Astroturfing, right? If you know what Astroturfing is when someone pretends, right, to be like, I'm just a random commoner, but I really love this Fextralife guy. Astroturfing is when you pretend to just be like an impartial person, right? Oh, I'm just a random guy from the street, but this guy's not innocent, right? But especially, Astroturfing has this like reverse call to authority, right? Where you pretend to be like a random nobody, but you actually support them, right? And of course, the term Astroturfing comes from like fake grass, So grassroot is something like you talk about organic growth, right? For example, if you subscribe to my channel, guys, press the like button and share the video, or whatever, right? That is like a grassroots movement because this guy he's not smart. I'm gonna share the video to him. That's like a grassroots, an organic growth, right? You like my video, you give it to someone else. But Astroturfing, which is that fake grass, right, compared to grassrooting, is that you basically are, of course, sharing the video, still though, but you're pretending that you don't know me. So you might be like my mom, My mom is an Astroturf because she's like, look at this guy, he's pretty funny. You should watch his channel. I have no, affiliation with this guy, but So my mom's type of right, she would be an Astroturf, right? Like you can just go to any Reddit forum, and maybe I'm just cynical, but I think like I imagine like every second comment on Reddit being an Astroturf, if in any topic, because I know how it is, right? I know how botting works and fake accounts and hate forms, stuff like rage baiting. I know what this stuff works from like a mathematical engineering standpoint, and it's so easy for anyone to have 30, 40 accounts, right? And just be like, let's just everyone attack this guy or this thing in case then. Oh no, everyone defend this thing because it's us, right? And if they are bot spamming, attack people on YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, whatever, right? If they are doing that, for argument's sake, they will obviously also Astroturf. So I have no problem saying that if It's like earlier, right? If A is true, then B is also likely true, then C is also true, and C then in this case astroturfing. So I'm not saying I have evidence that they're astroturfing, but I definitely assume that they are. Okay, you can have ads. So now we are on Fextralife's wiki page, and this to me is the biggest reason why I think that they are probably guilty, allegedly, but very likely so, and also why I think they might get banned on both YouTube and Twitch, right? Because every time you go to their wiki, right, you immediately are a viewer of their Twitch stuff, and also their YouTube videos start like running automatically. So they are clearly like viewbotting, right? Basically, they are like artificially increasing their views, and this is obviously true, okay? The other view stuff, the botting up and down, so on, whatever, that is maybe true or not, right? It's probably true, allegedly true, but we don't know for a fact. But this thing is factually true, that every time you go to their wiki page, you are constantly being a viewer, right? Which they're then pushing their videos for, right? Like you're automatically giving them views on YouTube and Twitch, right? Like they're both playing the Twitch stuff and you're also like watching YouTube video. This is clearly against YouTube's terms of service, like straight up, and Twitch. And like you're not actually watching the video, it's just playing automatic, as I keep saying, right? And what happens then, of course, the whole thing is that they are both tricking you to watch the videos, which pushes their videos up, right, on YouTube. And I say, and allegedly, right, they're also botting people to have less views on YouTube by disliking them and so on. And they're botting them, allegedly, on Reddit, right, and so on, to get more views, right? So it's a whole circle of clearly, like, AI botting stuff, right, where they are both tricking people, again, then, right, to watch their stuff, and then pushing down other people, and then also upvoting their own stuff using bots, right? And it is very, very likely, at least, again, I keep saying it, we know for a fact that they are tricking people to watch their Twitch stuff and the YouTube stuff. You think about it, you go to the channel again, right? You're on its webpage, and they will automatically, you know, run their Twitch stuff, right? And for me, at least, it might be my settings, but without sound, right? So I go to the site, and I want to read some build order there, right? Oh, how does this build work in moistctical? What is the best paladin build, right? And by doing that, in this tiny window in the corner, I am constantly gonna watch, you know, like their Twitch stream, even if I'm not even aware of it, because it's literally not even on the full page, right? So currently, right now, I am watching the Twitch video without sound, right? So they're getting like a view count from me, even if I'm not actually there, you know what I mean? Like it's ridiculously, clearly unethical, and breaks, I believe, Twitch as well. Definitely breaks YouTube, right? YouTube shouldn't allow this. And it's interesting, as I said earlier in the video, that people have been saying this for a while, right? Like I showed you earlier, people have been calling them out for a few years, right? And this can't be nothing new. And that I think, when I saw, for example, most critical video, before I started my here and so on, that I feel, but they are mostly saying, right, that this is a clearly viewbotting, right? They're clearly cheating system to get more views. And like I say, it's emphasize here, this thing is undeniably true, right? If they're viewbotting Reddit and Twitter and YouTube and so on, up and down also so on, dislikes and so on, that is allegedly true, probably true, right? We don't know for a fact, but again, we know for a fact they're cheating when it comes to views using the wiki, right? To of course get ad revenue and so on. And also, of course, also, like I said, right, by doing that, they're also pushing their videos, which again is a shitty system, right, to get more views, and it creates like a good circle for them, right, to get more money and so on. Also, then ruining it for other more authentic videos, right. Also, one thing as a side note, I think it's interesting that people have, because I knew it for a fact before too, but they also have a lot of wrong information, right. They also have, maybe Black Whisper actually has 3 type of, right. They actually have a lot of bad info as well, and that's probably because they use like, I think that they are very good at like populating their stuff. So populating is kind of like where you, let's say you have a page, right? And by populating it, so population, right? You add something to it, right? So having used a title of like the Black Whisperer could be the weapon title, right? If you don't populate it, it's gonna be an empty page with like Black Whisperer sword, right? But by populating it, Black Whisperer attack power 150, speed, blah blah, so on, right? This obviously gives you a better ranking, right, for search algorithm, but it can, even if it's false. But if you have an empty blank page of a weapon, that's gonna attract way worse, right, than having false data for a weapon, like attack power and speed or whatever. That's gonna give you a better search. So it's definitely fake data population is absolutely a beneficial thing to do if you only care about money, right? If you care about actually giving people authentic, real data, but you just want to get more views, that's much better than having that. And I think that's very true as well. Actually, I know that's true that there are fake data. To what percentage this page is fake data, I don't know. But it's very, they definitely have fake data. And again, the reason why is probably because imagine Baldur's Gate 3, right, dropping tomorrow. If you then populate your whole page, right, of all the items in Baldur's Gate 3, even if it's all fake, right, but you're populating it with fake data, but it's all true, you know what I mean? It's so much fake data, this thing and that thing, and spawn rate and attack power and so on. It's all, every item is like, you know, on your site the day one, right? You're gonna get way more views. So I think it's also, it's an obvious reason why for me, why you would like to use fake data, right? To get a much better SOE, search optimization rate, search engine optimization rating. So let's talk about AIs, guys. You know, I spent too much time today thinking about this stuff. Not this stuff though. I think I'm more like level 6 or 7 of AI. Okay, but this is like level 1. Botting is like the level 1 of AI power, right? And I look at botting as basically like coding, implementing an AI that can play a simple board game like chess, right? You know, something like that. The good about chess is like, oh no, but chess is very simple. It's very easy to write a pretty good chess AI because chess is a state machine turn-based game, right? So it's perfectly fine to put an AI in it, and that's why we're looking at this graph here, right? It's called a binary tree or a tree structure. So I thought about this in my review about the tree, but basically, right? Imagine that one up there is when you start playing chess, right? So this is like no one has done anything, right? And then white player moves their pawn in the middle, 2 steps forward, like, you know, h3 or whatever, yeah. That is state 2, right? And then depending on what the black player does, right, you know, the next player, you either go to 4 or 5. This is basically how the very, very simplistic AI works for chess, right? Now, how it actually works is different, but let me show you. This is the state machine. Think about the states, and then press this in here. This is kind of how chess is, right? But it really is. So again, right, you know, you have, this is the board, then you have, well, either this thing happened, that happened, you know. So this is more complicated here, of course, because now we have played maybe like 20 turns, right? But it is really the same thing, right? You have a state, then you move to the next stage, right, you know. And again, chess is actually fairly easy to write an AI for, because I can say its state is turn-based, right? So nothing else can happen. Basically, you have a closed environment where it's like, I can only do so much, right? So for example, when you start playing chess, right, you can only do like 20 moves. You can do 16 pawn moves and 4 horse moves. Right? So we know for a fact that the first state can only move to 20 different states, right? And that sounds overly complicated, but it actually isn't, right? Because that means we don't know for a fact what can happen, right? If you're gonna write an AI to learn and play perfectly, like, I don't know, soccer or whatever, football, right? That's like 1,000 times more complicated. Because even if the ball can only do that much, you have the different, you know, where's the player, where's the parameter, this, yeah, it's like, it's just so much more options, right? Where all different players can stand. So you have like a million different, you know, what can happen when the ball is kicked the first time, right? Yeah. There's so much more options after the first, kind of like, when the ball is rolling for like 10 seconds, right? There's so much that can happen, where in chess, no, it can only be 20 different moves, and then of course it can be less and more moves depending on, you know, how many pieces are left, right? So I call this the most basic form of AI, because the way you write a typical like chess AI in the old days, right, more or less, is just to look at what is the best state currently, right? What I mean with that is that, let's say you're in 5, right? Oh, it's like the queen is or whatever, and then you can only do you only have 2 options then, for argument's sake. The way to write the AI in the simplest format is to tell them that this is 10, this is 11. There's 2 different things you can do. 10 is better than 11 because of, like, you take a pawn or whatever, and then the AI will always do that, right? You can do it very easily. Now, if you make a smarter AI, which I call level 2 AI, that was then. For example, when I worked on a video game a couple days ago, we had this shell lighting effect. So you can throw a shell lighting in the game, right? What the game will do is that I wrote this tree algorithm. So what the game will do is that it will look at the perfect pattern. So instead of looking at where do I do like the most damage from, like, 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, like it compares to values? No, it actually compares 3 paths. So what it does is that it will calculate how can I throw my lightning, right, and hit maximum number of enemies, and calculate how many of them will take damage, so on, depending on shield set, right? And then actually will do every. So what the AI does is that it actually calculates basically all different combinations by looking at different trees, right? Like if, as, if, as, and then it puts them all in different, like total sum values, and then it compares them. So basically, if you're at 1, it's gonna compare 8, 9, 10, 11. Under me here is 13, 14, and so on. Yeah, it's gonna compare, all the end results and look at what is the best end result, and that is the shell lightning you're gonna throw. Of course, depending on where enemies are, because the shell lightning jumps around, right, it's gonna get different trees, right? So you might have like 10 different endings, or maybe only 3. So of course the computing power takes more time, of course, when it's more endings. But usually it's like 5 to 10 or whatever, so it's not that big deal. It's like a second, for the more they can do it. But that's what I would call level 2 AI, right? Because basically writing a sesh AI to use be like, oh, I'm in state 2, and the best option from state 2 is 4 or whatever, right there. That's one thing, right? But then you write a smarter AI, which is basically then the AI that beats people in chess, right? Because it's a combination of, state machine and three logic constructor, right? Because what it does is that it looks at 1, like a potential lightning, and then it predicts, like what is the best path, right? So then it tries to move into 2, because that is like the most, there's a win, right? This is the damage, highest damage, whatever. But then the opponent does 5. Oh, I want. So he wants to go like 1, 2, 4, 9. Let's say he wants to go this path, right? This is the path it wants to go. So he starts going here, but then the opponent does this thing, but then it does the same thing. Then it recalculates, say, well, okay, if I'm in 5 though, what is best, 10 or 11, right? Of course, it keeps going down. The tree will, of course, expand then, right? So then you can get this thing, where it's like it's gonna keep, going down, right? But basically, it's gonna redo the same thing, right? So you can imagine that. Basically, if the opponent does something it doesn't want to do, so let's say it has all the options in the world, and it can do, it looks at every option it has, and then it's like 1, 2, 3, this path I want to go, 1, 2, 4, 8, right? The opponent does something that like equals to 5. Instead of looking at 5, you could imagine that the 5 is 1 again. You know what I mean? Like it goes up to 1. It recalculates. Okay, so I'm here now, but it rewrites here to be here in top of the new tree. Then recalculates a new path. Oh, I should go like 8, 3, 6, 13 then from this positioning. So he goes here, right? Opponent goes here. And then, oh shit, he ruined me. Okay, I have to recalculate. And then does that thing. But basically, it constantly tries to calculate every possible step, right, to get to the perfect scenario as much as it can, right? That's like level 2, right? Level 3 is predicting what you're gonna do. Yeah, level 3 I would say is that it's trying to trick you, whatever, to predict you. That's a much more complicated AI. So then it's gonna use like state machines and market theory, I suppose, or something like that, to like try to calculate where should I be or something, where you're gonna do. That's kind of the first step of Chat GPT. Something, yeah, not really, but now we're getting close to Chat GPT, so because normal language models, right? What they do is they predict what they think is gonna happen, right? So you train a language model, the basic form, by giving it text, right? And then it learns to be like, this is the next word you probably will tell me, right? That's how we can talk to you, because it's predicting what you probably will say. If you use the same thing for a game, of course it can predict what you probably will do, right? So that's gonna say that at the next level. But I would say you can have like a middle step before that. And for a side note, right? If you go here instead, here we're gonna get like, this is how a large language model works, right? This is kind of the modern AI, the LLM, large language model. Basically it takes a lot of words, right? And then it compresses them into a better thing, right? So you kind of try to calculate. And it also reads every text on the same time. So obviously, this is not how Fextralife works, right? They are not using a large language model AI, which I would call, I guess this is the modern AI. I don't think this is actually the modern AI that we actually use. This is the modern AI that you, as a person, can use, for like Chat GPT, whatever, that kind of level, right? This is this stuff, like Chat 4, yeah, this uses like this stuff, large language models. I think when it started with that, but whatever. This is kind of what you have right now, right? But of course, this is not the future. I pointed out, but for addressing that, but that's another video. But whatever. My point is that this is a much more advanced system, right? And the problem and why they got exposed, right, is because their bots, right, go back to the previous image, is definitely not doing this thing. This is way more advanced, right? This is 10 times, this is like 100 times more intelligent than what they are doing, yeah. It's like a logarithmic, right? It's like this is like several levels of more intelligence. But basically, right, they are doing this thing, or rather this thing then, right? Because at the first level, what a state machine AI does is that it only looks at its current state and say, what can I do to improve my situation, right? So the reason I explained all this tree mumbo jumbo, which I hope you like, is because a smarter AI course, like I said, my Lightning, right, will look at the complete path and say, this is the best path of this 10 path I can do. This is the best path, so I take that path, right? Typical, a flow chart, basically, right? This is the ultimate flow chart. But as a stupid AI, but still an AI nonetheless, will just look at its current state, right? If you just look at 1, it won't care about 2, 3, and so on. It doesn't care that 2 goes to 5. It only looks at, I am here now, what is best, 2 or 3, right? It only looks at its current state, and then it says, what should I do in this current state? That's the only thing it looks at, like I explained earlier. But that is like a very stupid AI, yet an AI that probably will beat most people in chess, okay? Because it will do the best option it can do, right, in every given state. And honestly, it is pretty simple, right, again, to write an AI for chess, because, like I said, it's a turn-based board game, everything is fixed to a table, right? Nothing can move out of the ordinary, and there is no, there's no unpredictability in chess, right, Chess has zero unpredictability. Of course, someone can play less rational or less good or whatever, or random, but they actually can't play truly random because the AI is completely aware of everything that can happen, right? But if you have, an AI, let's say something, an UA or something, a drone, right? The drone, the drone won't expect you to maybe, I don't know, throw water at it. You can do so much more, but the point, in a chessboard board game, yeah, the AI knows exactly everything that can happen, and you as the player can never change it. All the data is completely known, right? There's no hidden information. So if again, like socket or whatever, you can have the AI cheating, right? And know what is behind the wall. Like fog of war can be removed by the AI, but usually you want the AI not to cheat, right? In like those games, so the AI will actually be, hidden for it, right? What's like behind the fog of war, right? But in chess, there is a fog of war, so the AI perfectly knows everything that can happen, right? And that of course means that it actually is still pretty good, because it will still do the best possible thing it can do, right? From everything it knows, and it knows everything, right? Because again, it's like a completely open board game, so it knows everything it can do. So most people actually probably still won't beat the AI, right? Because it just knows exactly what is the best thing to do, right? But that being said, though, the AI is still only what I would call level 1 AI, right? Because it's basically a very simplistic AI. You can only value parameters, right? And then do whatever it should do, right? Given its parameters. And that is, of course, going back to this long point, why Fextralife is getting exposed, right? Allegedly. Because they have a bot, right? The bot is this level of AI. It's a chess state AI, right? And basically, the bot is like, oh, what should I do? Well, my creator, right, my coder told me to use like don't vote everyone on Reddit, right? You know what I mean? Except our post, right? Except maybe with these titles, or like don't vote everyone with this title, right? And that is why, of course, the Fextralife bot got so exposed, because it is written is to look for certain inputs, right? And then the input happens, it's going to attack it immediately, right? A smarter AI, even on level 2, but especially like level 4 or 5 level AI, would probably determine that, or maybe I shouldn't do this thing because it's going to be obvious that I am botting them, you know what I mean? But this AI seems to be, the very basic level 1 AI, so it just does exactly what it should do at this given moment, completely disregarding, the tree structure, what actually is going to happen in the next 2 steps, right? So it just does exactly that. And those AIs then are very easy to trick, right, so to speak, because it's easy to trigger them. They're only looking for like a search word or an image or whatever, and they go after the middle, right, and they don't care about the consequences, they don't care about next thing. Then they get into a new state, and you say, what should I do exactly now, right? So they're very, very simplistic, yet of course quite effective. Like I said, right, testing is very fast, and it also, you know what, and that also of course why botting for Reddit or whatever, YouTube, is quick, right? Because it's very, very binary, you know, true or false. Basically, it looks for a parameter, the parameter happens, true, it goes for it, you know. That's simplistically, you know, and it goes for it, right? So there's no break there, and it keeps doing it. What I will say though, is that they probably have one, what's it called, constraint on it. Probably. So you can give constraint to your bots, right? And I will guess they have some constraint, which is probably like, you know, after you've done this basically like into counter. In the code wise, it's like a counter, right? But basically, it's like, oh, after you have downvoted this thing 200 times, stop doing it. You know, that's basically the only thing it probably has. So, because it obviously doesn't do it forever, right? But so it's like bam, 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 and then it's like 200, stop. Yeah, that's probably the only thing it does, right? So you can it might have a little higher level than that. Like maybe it looks at like the view count or something, and it does it more if you have more views or something. Like maybe. But see what I mean? Now we're getting into a higher level AI, and then it's like, well, if it also looks at the view count, might as well also look at like how often do I go after this specific person? Maybe I should reduce that, yeah. So that, I mean, you can obviously dwell on how smart the bot is, right? And you can write more constraints and more like checks or whatever, and eventually you get quite a smart AI. And if they had a smart AI, I mean, I personally, I don't do this stuff, but I personally, you would not take my bots to play. That sounds so smug. No, but it's like, yeah, it's a 3-state machine. You know, like I wrote this AI when I was a kid, you know. But I was a kid. I've never playing FF12, right? You can watch the gambits. So you can like script the character, because the gambits are if statement, right? So I always remember I play FF12 and I just made all the characters, you know, defeat every boss by me not touching the controller. I love that, yeah, stuff like that, you know. So this is basically the same thing, right? Yeah, because the AI in FF12 is just a state machine that has, it has like gambits up to like what, 12 or 15 or whatever, different states. But basically it's very similar, right? Because you have like, here is, you know, Ash, the main character, you know? Ash, the main character. And you have Ash, and then you have like 16 different these basically, right? And then it just doesn't. I mean, basically, if else, right? Yeah, it has a pure, right? It's basically like 16 if statements, right? And it just takes the first one that it should do, right? But you can also give it some smarter advice. But basically, it's just like a bunch of if statements, right? But but it's kind of the same thing, like, you know. Think about how to write a basic chess AI, right? The chess AI will do the same thing. You can also write it the same way. You have like, this is your main goal, right? And if you can't do A, do B instead. If you can't do B, do C instead. You can also write a chess AI. You can write a turn-based AI always like that. Yeah, you can also just give it, here's all the options, right? And if you can't do this one, do the next, do the next, do the next. You can also do that thing. That's like a waterfall kind of strategy of if statements. You can always do that, if as, if else. That's like the simplest AI you can probably. That's like AI level 0 basically. Yeah, it's a bunch of if statements. But basically, right. But anyway, guys, so you guys can have a great day.